this one was a great action-packed chapter, and for all the obvious reasons too. Just adrenaline, testosterone, balls to the wall action. And then of course the surprise appearance at the end didn't hurt either.
Gourmet number 40, surprise guest.
Man, that shit was weak. You gotta be like, gourmet number 40, surprise guest, mother.
Ooh. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review for another chapter of the awesome, awe-inspiring, visually driven tale of Toriko. I almost said One Piece there. God damn it, I gotta figure out what I'm doing, man. Our last chapter, of course, saw us with really it was the Regal Mammoth. This was the whole, ending of the chapter, was the Regal Mammoth, who just started like tumbling down the side of that cliff, and that cliff that was almost 3,000 kilometers, almost 2 miles high. And of course, Sunny and Komatsu, as Sunny likes to refer to as Matsu, were on the side of that hill, being kind of, propelled up by his little magical hairs. So that's how things left off. That's how things pick up in this one. And actually, it's pretty cool because we go and we see from a couple chapters back at the end of the Devil Athletic, when Terry could sense that GT robot and that he had just kind of, had him there, and he was like, he was going to turn and fight him. It was cool because at the beginning of it, we see Rin and Toriko running, and Rin's like, is Terry going to be okay battling that thing? I left him with some battle fragrance, and Toriko's just like, you know what? He made up his mind. There's no talking him out of it. This is what he has to do. So whether he wins or loses, he's going to fight this battle. All we can do is believe in his strength and, believe in him, right? So then Rin goes and she sees, and she's like, what the hell is that? She can see the Regal Plateau, and she can see the Regal Mammoth, coming down the side of this thing. And, and they're like, oh my God, it's the Regal Mammoth. Why the hell is it doing that? And Toriko's like, the thing's on the rampage. It's leaving the Regal Plateau to go find its child, right? And this is the only way down, whatever. But this thing is huge, man. I mean, this thing looks like a freaking mountain coming down a mountain. It looks like an avalanche, So then it's funny because Toriko's like, just the irony of it. Toriko's like, yeah, well, I certainly hope that Sunny and Komatsu aren't anywhere around there, right? Well, sure as shit. Then it goes and it cuts to Sunny and Komatsu, and of course they're on the side of the cliff, like looking up, like, oh my God, what is that? And they're figuring out that, it just pretty much just blotted out the sun at first, right? But then they start figuring out that this thing come rolling down the hill is the Regal Mammoth. It's ginormous, everything else. So then it's, you see them, they're like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do, And Komatsu's thinking maybe they can hide in the what are those things called? The Great Cliffs, the cliff, what do they call these thing-a-lings? The heavy cliffs. I'm sorry, the heavy cliffs. They look like the dark gorilla-looking things or whatever that were popping out of those. He goes, maybe we can go and hide into their holes. But then they go and they show all the heavy cliffs, and they're all jumping out of their holes, right? And he's like, well, I hope they don't think that we were the ones that caused this big commotion and everything. Because remember, Sunny was like, you just leave them be, and they'll leave you be, right? Well. Well, it's funny because then you see these things starting to go and attack and come towards Sunny and Komatsu, right? And Sunny says something to the effect of, we're just going to go and handle this and back off a little bit and blah, blah. And Sunny's like, you mean run? We're going to have to run? And you go and you see him, go and nail a bunch of these with his spatula move that he has, his counterattack. He sees him nail a bunch of these things. But you can see that there's like hundreds more. And and then of course there's the mammoth that's running down after them, right? So he's just like, no, I didn't say that. I just meant a full-on retreat, So then Toriko and Rin wind up approaching from down at the bottom. And of course they're not that far up the cliff yet, but far enough. Obviously it's all relative, but they're getting set upon by all these great cliffs, as well as the the mammoth running down. And then of course you have at the bottom, you've got Toriko and Rin like, oh shit, what the hell are we gonna do? And Rin's like, we're gonna have to get out of the way. So Toriko goes and he's just like, Rin, move, and he's just like, whoosh, knife, and you just see him go and make some swath out, like, and just in the ground, and you're like, okay, well, that's kind of cool. And then he's like, fork. And he goes and what he did is he cut like a square out of the earth, maybe like 30 feet down or something like that. And you just see him with the fork thing just and go and pull this chunk of earth out. And he's like, and tosses it over to the side, right? And he's just like, he's yelling up to Sunny, and he's like, no, aim for this area, right? So obviously him and Rin jump in, and then so Sunny's like, that's cool, you don't got to tell me twice. So him and Komatsu go in and kind of dive into this thing, and it all sort of happens like a bang bang, it's like in baseball, it's a bang bang play, right? But anyway, So he winds up, they wind up all getting into there or whatever, and the Regal Mammoth, as it comes crushing, crushes down. I mean, just crushes Earth with it and everything else. I mean, this thing, it's literally like picking up the Titanic and just fucking tossing it. You know what I mean? When this thing hits and the impact, the damage. So this 20 or 30 foot deep, square of Earth that, and stone and everything like that Toriko dug out, it's kind of funny because after the mammoth goes and kind of goes rolling over him, whatever, we go and we see this kind of web, and he's like, saved by hair, a hairnet, and Sunny obviously would put his, like a web of his hair, a cage almost, it looks like, door over the top of this thing, but he's standing very close to the top, so this thing clearly crushed down quite a bit, and it was funny because even when they were up on the, actual, climbing up the wall or whatever, the cliff, Komatsu was like, hey, why don't you just use your hair to catch it like you do with the other ones? He's like, are you crazy? This one obviously is coming barreling down and has that momentum behind it, but this one's, it's 10 times the size of the smaller one, So definitely very, very cool though, as far as the action-packed portion of it. So they go, and as they come up out of there, they wind up seeing a bunch of these like half balls, they look like, these black balls or whatever, right? And sure enough, the heavy cliffs that decided to jump out, they were able to go, and I don't know, obviously their body makeup, they can make themselves roll into a ball and be real hard. They actually showed, how they rolled up, and like the Regal Mammoth rolled over them, and they pretty much just were able to like harden themselves up. So whatever their deal is, they obviously have some pretty impervious skin because, Toriko and company almost bought it, and these things just start popping out, right? And there's a ton of them too. And Sunny's like, Toriko, are you gonna help me with this or what? It's like we got between the Regal Mammoth and these great cliffs over here. We're not looking too good, So we already know that Toriko is a little bit worse for wear because of what's been going on with him. But then what I like is come flying out of nowhere, man. All of a sudden you go and you see all these great cliffs getting, kind of getting nailed, and they're falling all over the place. And all of a sudden, man, comes flying, and everybody's like, and all of a sudden my man Coco come flying in, right? And we saw him several chapters back, just very briefly at the beginning of the actual chapter, that he was flying in. So we knew that at some point he was going to meet up with them sooner or later. He didn't really know when. But I just thought it was cool to just kind of come in there, right when he needs to. And actually, I meant to show you the page before. I apologize. So gotta get all excited over it. These things come popping out. Then all of a sudden they're kind of hulking up to attack, and they're all jumping in midair, and they're coming towards Sunny. And then all of a sudden, man, you just see, don't forget about me, Sunny. And it's Coco, right? And that's when these things start hitting the ground. And then he goes and he says they're not dead. He just temporarily paralyzed them with a neurotoxin. So my boy Coco, 3 out of the 4 kings are together and are going to go and hopefully capture the Regal Mammoth. And now they've also got some much-needed backup because Toriko being 40, 50, 60%, yeah, that's still better than most, but, I mean, obviously, he's taken some damage. He's taken some hits, okay? And I don't care what gourmet cells he's got, he's not 100%, which he just said a couple chapters ago. Sunny, I don't know the full extent of his powers, seems very strong, but I know that these GT robots, especially these new ones, they're pretty bad, especially considering we know at least one of the pilots of them is that Stargen, and these things, are also stronger based on the people that's piloting them as well, So I definitely think they've got their work cut out for them, but I think it's going to ease the burden a bit having Coco there. So certainly it was a cool kind of explosive, surprise, but not really. He was coming sometime, you just didn't know when. To see Coco appear. So anyway, that goes and relates, and that ends the chapter. My chapter question is what do you think about the timely appearance of Coco? I mean, do you think it was just kind of one of those, yeah, well, I expected it, this is when they would need him? Or was it kind of like, hey, this is like perfect timing for it? Or to tell you the truth, when I first saw him, I had no idea if he was going to meet up with them right away or if he was going to kind of go off on his own adventure and then maybe meet him up at the climax of the Regal Mammoth arc. I wasn't really quite sure what his role was going to be. So, but let me know what you think and leave your answer in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you in the next one, Nation.
Y'all miss me? Well, I am back, and now we have 3 of the 4 kings currently together.